All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, double honor to the elders and the apostles that have been rightly dividing the word of truth and magnifying the ministry of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. And in this one right here, we're going to be dealing with, the meat, the steak and potatoes of Acts 13. The deep secrets of Acts 13, which is really plain. But, if someone don't know the history and things like that, it could be kind of confusing to them, right? And when I'm talking about the steak and potatoes, I'm really talking about the 43rd verse all the way down, all the way down to 48 when it's talking about the light to the Gentiles. So we're gonna read it. We're gonna read Acts. Let's start verse 1. It says, "Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon that was called Niger, and the Lucius of Cyrene, and Maan, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul." So you had teachers and prophets in his church that was in Antioch. And Antioch back in those times was in the region of Pisidia, which was in Asia Minor. And notice how it said that, it was certain prophets and teachers in there that was called nigger, right? If you're familiar with this word, this word, when you go into it, they was calling, the so-called African Americans this word as a racial slur in today's era. But back then, that's what we was called by, even back then, by the Greeks and things like that. So they been knew who we were. And that's why they using this term today, because we was called that back then, right? So let's go back to it. It says, "Now they were in the church that was at Antioch," right? And Antioch is a city that was in, the region of Pisidia and Asia Minor. In this city, it says Antioch was founded near the end of the 4th century BC by Seleucus Nictor, one of Alexander the Great's general, right? So this city, Antioch, was founded by a man named Seleucus Nictor, right? And if you look deeper into Seleucus Nictor, he was one of the sons of Antioch, right? Youth and family. This is going into the man who founded the city. It says Seleucus was one of Antioch's. Salaki. It says Seleucus was the son of Antiochus. My bad, right? So Seleucus was one of the sons of Antiochus, and he had named the city and founded the city and named it Antioch after the name of his father, right? So that's where the prophets and the teachers was at, where they was teaching. They was teaching in Greek territory. So when we go to First Maccabees, this is dealing with the Greek Hellenization period. When Antiochus was ruling and things like that, his son, speaking on his son, because Antiochus the first also had another son that was named after him, and his name was called Antiochus also. Right. So let's go to First Maccabees 1:10. It says, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Aphius, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks." So you had King Antiochus. He had a son that was also named Antiochus, and his surname was Epiphanes, right? And he was ruling, during the time of the Hellenization period. So, when Paul and these teachers are teaching in Antioch, they're teaching, you know, Hellenistic Jews, right? That's why when we get the verse 43 and it's talking about the Gentiles, it's speaking on the Hellenistic Jews, because in the time of Antioch, if we go to First Maccabees 1:11, says, "In those days went out there out of Israel wicked man, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have much sorrow." So this device pleased them well. Then certain other people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen, wherein they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. So in the time of the Antiochus, you had certain Israelites that was leaving the customs and leaving a heritage of Israel behind to go follow after the customs of the Greeks, you know, making them Hellenists. Right? Let's get some more on this. Let's go to verse 41. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificing to idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah, that they should follow strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and the unclean beasts. So Antiochus had, the Israelites doing all type of wicked things to go against, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. He had them going off. He had them sacrificing, unclean foods on the altar, worshiping idols, setting up high places of worship in Jerusalem. All these things make the Most High stop dealing with you. You know, things like this will make the Most High cast you off. Because if you living like the heathen, the Most High will consider you as a heathen. He'll let you, do your thing with the heathen. And he won't let you be a part of Israel. Right? Verse 48 says that they shall also lead their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of cleanness and profanation. So, it was just pure wickedness, man. You couldn't circumcise your children, and when your children was born, they'll make you, they try to make them as wicked as they can by, profaning them and feeding them all type of abominable things. And it was wicked in the time of King Antiochus. Let's read on. It says, verse 49, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. So, in this Greek rulership, they made a majority of Jews forget the laws of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, and change their whole way of life to the customs of the Greeks, making these, Hellenistic Greeks. So when Paul is in that church in Antioch, he's speaking to, Hellenist Jews that went through this, that forefathers went through this and had to grow up in the ways of the heathen. Right? Verse 50, it says, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die. In the self-same manner wrote this, Salaki, in the self-same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. The many of the people were gathered unto him, to wit, every one that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for secure. So, we gonna read some more on this, but just to explain it, if you didn't want to lead the laws of the God of Israel and follow the king's commandment, which is the Greeks, they was gonna put you to death. So it was a lot of pressure on the Jews back then. It was either you get down with the Gentiles or you die. And a lot of Jews, out of fear, went to the commandments of the king. So verse 54, it says, now the 15th day of the month, Coslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. So the abomination of desolation, this is what Daniel prophesied about. They'll coming into the temple and sacrificing unclean, fools, swines, things like that. That's the abomination of desolations, right? And just doing all type of, coming in doing all type of abominable things. Period. The land being desolated through abominations, through sin. Now it says, verse 55, it says, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. So a lot of our our books got burned too. A lot of our books got burnt. If they found you with a book, they'll burn it up. You will have to turn it in and they'll burn it up. In verse 57, it says, and whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king commandment was that they should put him to death. And if you was found with a book, hiding the book and doing the things that's written therein, they'll put you to death in the time of King Antiochus. So it was really tough rulership from the Greeks. A really harsh rulership from the Greeks. They had our foot they foot on our necks, man. And they was putting pressure on us. This is why a lot of Jews left the customs of the Israelites and start following the customs of the Greeks, making them Gentiles and Hellenists. Reading on, it says, verse 58, thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month. So they did this to the Israelites every month. They went looking for the books, and if you was found with a book or doing anything that's written in the laws of God, you will be put to death. It says to as many as were found in the cities. Now the 25th day they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. Right, so they were sacrificing all type of unclean foods on the altar of the Most High. Just profaning and disrespecting the Most High. But it's all gonna come upon Esau's head. Everything that Esau did to us in the past is gonna come right back to him. Right. Verse 60 says, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised, and they hanged their infants about their necks, and rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them. So they was even killing our women, man. The daughters of Zion, man. They was slaughtering them for circumcising their children. For doing, they was killing you for doing any little thing that was written in the law of God. They would kill you for that. That's how harsh this rulership was from the Greeks. That's why when we get that Acts the 13th chapter, and they in the church of Antioch, they writing to them Jews that went through all this, that was forced to, keep the commandment of the king. Right, let's get some more in Maccabees. Let's go to Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees 6 and 6. It was a tough time in that Greek rulership, man. Very harsh time. In the Roman rulership too, and in America when they brought us over here, it was just as bad. You know, this is 2nd Maccabees 6 and 6. It says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient fast, ancient feasts. It's supposed to say feast, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. So it was even unlawful in the Greeks commandment, in the king of the Greeks commandment, to even call yourself a Jew or keep the Sabbath, or you'll be put to death. So if we can't call ourselves Jews, what can we call ourselves? They'll make you call yourself a Greek. That's how we became Gentiles. That's why when we read in Acts chapter 13, and Paul is talking to them Gentiles that's in the church at Antioch, he's talking to Hellenistic Jews that couldn't call themselves Jews. He would just bring it back to remembrance who they are. Well, there's some more in Maccabees, the 6th chapter. Let's go to verse 9. It says, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. So they was putting you to death if you didn't want to follow the ways of the Greeks, right? If you didn't want to forsake the covenant and the ordinances of your God and come serve their gods, they'll put you to death. Right, reading on, it says, for there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom when they had openly led round about the city, the babes handy at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. So they was taking the babies and they was, smashing them against the walls. Right? This is why the Lord, quick precept, this is why the Lord said in Psalms 137. Let's get it real quick. It says, remember, O Yahweh, the children of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it. Meaning they would, when Jerusalem was getting ready to was getting through down, they was happy about it. They was saying, destroy it, destroy it. It says, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Because what? They was dashing our little ones against the stones, man. They was literally ripping the babies out of the mother's hand and smashing them against the wall headlong, meaning body legs. And it says, verse 11, and others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most Sakar day. Right? So if they found you even keeping the Sabbath day, or when they found these brothers and sisters keeping the Sabbath day right here, they burnt them up. Right? They burnt them, man. So they was burning us, hanging our babies, you know, uh, doing all type of things, man. Hanging us, burning us alive, killing us, all for just wanting to serve the Most High. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah. You know? So when we get to Acts 13, this is who Paul is talking to, man. He's talking to, Jews that went through all this, that couldn't call themselves a Jew, couldn't follow the customs of their God. So let's go back to Acts chapter 13, verse 43. Well, we gonna go to verse 47. Says, for so hath the Lord commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentiles, that thou shouldest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. Right? And remember that these Jews that was in Antioch, because this is in the church of Antioch, remember what everything they went through, man. They couldn't call themselves a Jew. They couldn't keep the customs, the law. Though they couldn't call upon the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. It was bad. So this light that Paul and the prophets and the teachers got to restore back to them is this, man. Let's go to Proverbs 6 and 23. It says, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. So Paul has to, Paul and the teachers, they got to bring this light, meaning this law, back to them. Right? They got to teach them about, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah in these laws, because they've been took through a Hellenist period, and they lost all this. Right? Let's go to Psalms. I believe it's 119 and 59. Let's see. Nope. Oh, 105. It says, none. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. So they had to bring that light back, meaning the words, the law of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. They had to teach these Hellenist Jews about it all again, because they lost it in the times that, their parents went through the Hellenist periods, Right, let's get one more. Let's go to 1 John 1 and 5. It says, this is the message which we have heard of him and declared unto you, that Yahweh is light, and in him is no darkness at all. So that's the light that Paul and the other teachers, had to bring in the church of Antioch, was the laws. And they had to teach them about Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah and the laws and things like that. That's the light that they had to bring back to the Hellenistic Jews that was going through that in the land of Antioch. Right? That's why when we read Ephesians chapter 2, which a lot of idiots like to say that this is talking about some type of spiritual Israel, which is not. You know, and Paul was saying right here, where is it at? It says, verse 11, it says, "Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands." Talking about going back all the way to the Hellenistic period again. When they when you read First Maccabees chapter 1, let's see, in verse 15 it says, "And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsake the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief." Right? This is what Paul is talking about. Talking about those in the Hellenistic period that couldn't uncircumcise or keep the commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. So like I said, uncircumcised me, I meant that couldn't circumcise and keep the commandments. But that's all Paul is going into, man. Let's read it. Let's read some more. It says that at time you were without Yahweh Shah Mashiach. How? Because they forsake the covenant. Their fathers forsook the covenant and made the covenant with the heathens. It says, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants, like we just said, of the promise, having no hope and without Yahweh in the world, right? Like we just said, Yahweh is a light and the laws is a light. They didn't have that. That's why in the church of Antioch, they had to bring that back to them. Verse 13 says, "But now in Hamashiach Yahushua, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach. For he is our peace, who have made both one, and have broken down the middle wall partition between us." Talking about them Hellenistic Jews in that time. But in this time, you know, the scriptures say that Israel and Judah were oppressed together. So now it's southern and the northern kingdom believers trying to break down the wall of partition between the non-believers, right, from both kingdoms. But in this time, you know, it was dealing with the Hellenistic Jews, you know. So let's go back to it. Acts chapter 13 and we're going to start at verse 47. It says, "For so hath the Lord commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentiles, that thou shouldest be for salvation unto the ends of the earth." And when you're dealing with salvation, I like to bring this out all the time. When you're dealing with salvation, if you read Luke chapter 1 verse 68, it says, "Blessed be Yahweh, power of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us." So that's what salvation is, right? Being saved from your enemies and from the hand of all that hate you. It says to perform the mercy promised to our fathers and to remember his holy covenant. And salvation, it's important to know that salvation is a part of the covenant. So when it says that, you know, they can't get that light to the Gentiles, that the salvation may reach to the ends of the earth, you got to understand that salvation is only for Israel, right? This is Hebrews 8 and 8. It says, "For finding fault with them, he said, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith Yahweh. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh, and I will put my laws in their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a power, and they shall be to me a people." Right? So salvation is part of the holy covenant, and that covenants was only made with the whole house of Israel, right? But Lord, when this was edifying through the Spirit, right? All praise to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. Shalom.